And welcome to This Day, folks. I'm Michael Taylor. It is Saturday. I think it's the July 4th, but no, it's not really. Not the 4th of July, like the old Chicago song. It's July 26th. I'm Michael Taylor. Thanks for joining us here on This Day. We got a great show for you. It's a very interesting one. It's a special one, and let me tell you about it. It's the 60th anniversary of this very program, well, not this very program, but Village Television as it was created 60 years ago. And the former host of This Day, Rob Merritt, came by for a visit to celebrate the anniversary. He was at the History Center giving a talk to a packed house, actually, and I was there as well. It was a very interesting talk, and we're going to show you excerpts from that today on the program. So we're going to be taking out the History Center for our field shoot that we did, and really kind of cool to see Rob and talk about the history of it. Old pictures, going to be talking about all sorts of really cool stuff. So looking forward to that one. I was there. I'm not in that show, but I'm here right now telling you about it. So that's what we're going to do for this one today. Before we get to that, though, we want to keep you informed, and we have a great thing coming up. It's called the Unity Festival. It's going to make its big debut on September 30th, so mark your calendars. It's all the mutuals, and everybody's getting together to throw this very special event. They're going to have live music. They're going to have global cuisine, interactive booths from the village clubs are going to be there as well. There are also going to be food tickets available starting on August 1st, next Friday, a week from yesterday. They're going to be going on sale for $20, where you can kind of take a world tour of cuisines while you're at the Unity Festival. So really cool stuff. Got some bands that are coming up. We'll make some announcements about that as well later on. So make sure you mark your calendar for the 30th of September for the Unity Festival. Okay, let's take a quick check of our weather, and we got some beautiful temperatures for this weekend. Today's going to be 74, right smack dab in the middle of the sweet spot. That's a Goldilocks temperature for me. Not too cold, it's not too warm, just right. You can wear shorts or long sleeves or pants if you want to. The marine layer is going to burn off to mostly sunny skies today, and then tomorrow we start a little bit of a warm-up. Sunday is going to be 77 degrees under mostly sunny skies. Then we got a little bit of marine layer in the morning on Monday, but again into the 80s, and then 85 on Tuesday. So lots of sunshine headed our way, a little bit of a warm up from the very cool temperatures and below average temperatures we've been having and enjoying for the past week or two. So there you go. Let's take a look at our sunrise, sunset. We got a beautiful picture here from Hope Bullock. Thank you very much, Hope, for sending this one. This was in Leavenworth, Washington. Beautiful old delivery truck kind of thing looking there with some flowers around it. Very interesting shot there. Sunrise this morning was 5:58. Sunset tonight is going to be 7:55. If you'd like to send us a picture like Hope did, we'd love to see it. Email us, lagunawoodsvillagetv@gmail.com. Make sure you include your name and where you took the picture, and we will use it in our sunrise sunset segment. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be celebrating 60 years of Village Television with the former host of this very show, Rob Merritt. So stay with us.
The wait is over. A brand new pharmacy just minutes from your front door is now open. Service. It's our top priority at Laguna Pharmacy. Enjoy free same-day delivery, low over-the-counter prices, and personalized attention, all with the same copay you're used to. Tired of waiting on hold? Our experienced pharmacists answer your calls right away. We are in network with most Medicare plans and make the transfer process easy. Visit Laguna Pharmacy today for the exceptional care you deserve.
See that hand's good. So, a little bit of background on me. Grew up in Fullerton. Like a lot of families, our family moved from San Gabriel to Fullerton in the 50s and grew up in that area. Went to Sunny Hills High School and then went on to Cal State Fullerton. Now, a lot of times in interviewing people here, it was like, well, how did you get your job? How did you become a pharmacist? Or how did you become a TV guy or whatever? How did you get into your work? And sometimes we have foreshadowing on that. And I had a couple of incidents in high school that actually sort of told me what I was going to end up doing. They had a career day, and one of the counselors pulled me into her office and said, I'd like you to be the host for one of our segments. I said, oh, okay. And it was a guy from a radio station. And I go, well, I'm not really interested in broadcasting, and she goes, just do it. I think you'll find it interesting. So that was number one. And then number two, I have a friend, she's still around, and from high school, and her father owned a car dealership. So she was in LA a lot with him, watching him produce commercials. And she said, I could see you in one of those rooms with all those TV sets. So that was kind of a foreshadowing of how I ended up here. Cal State Fullerton requires internship. And so I was one of the first interns to come down here. I think I was the first intern to come to Channel 6. I got married in 1968 to this nice lady right here, and was in my final year of Cal State Fullerton when they had said, you got to do your internship. So I came down here in the spring of 1969 in what used to be your administration building, which is now this other project right here, and met with the guy that was at that time the acting station manager. They were going through lots of transitions, and they had a private company actually was doing the programming on Channel 6. A company was called Cablecasters, and they were working under contract to what was called the Leisure World Foundation, not to be confused with your current Leisure World Foundation. This was the people that managed the community back in those days. Federal Communications Commission was also encouraging cable systems to do what they called local origination. So we were sort of filling that niche as well. We were under the supervision of what used to be called your Education and Recreation Department. No longer called that, it's called Recreation now. And we had weekly reports. The gentleman that was in charge of that was a retired military officer, so he was big on facts and figures. And he had all over his wall pie charts and graphs of different things. And so each week he would ask our station manager how many people visited Channel 6. And he would always add 2 or 3 to whatever he told the guy the week before. So our chart always looked, like we were really doing a great job with the community here. So I started working afternoons and evenings with their small production crew here. They started back in '65, as some of you may know, over in Clubhouse 1. And we had a big production crew. We had 2 black and white cameras and a 3rd camera with the zoom lenses. All were black and white, and none of them were very good, but they did make somewhat of a picture. All of our shows were live, including live transitions, like coming up next is, and somebody would be doing a live voiceover announcement. We'd have a camera on a card that said the name of the next show. That was our transitions. So it was pretty basic at that time. Some of the hosts we had back then were obviously residents, also some of the instructors from your adult ed program, and that was through the Tustin School District. Now this was prior to Prop 13, so the school district felt they could provide adult ed down here and had quite a few classes that ended after Prop 13 got passed. I was hired by as a production assistant for that company in June of '69, and then a fellow Cal State Fullerton grad, George Phelps, he came on board in the fall of '69. We got our Thanksgiving surprise that year. There was a letter taped to the door of the office that said, "We no longer need you." And so that was our goodbye from the Cablecasters people who lost the contract. The gentleman who was our station manager at the time had been meeting with Mr. Ivan Foley, who was the president of Rossmore Electric. That company was under contract to build and maintain your cable system at that time. So the remaining staff, George Phelps, Mr. Jimenez, our manager, and myself, started with Rossmore Electric in 1970. We went off the air late in December of '69, and we spent the last week of the year, our Christmas vacation, putting the studio back together, rewiring everything, including a new black and white control room. We worked with some of the engineers from Rossmore Electric, Jim Fritchie and Bill Krause, among others, who helped us out figure out that new control room. And then we added something new in 1970, a bingo machine, and that was very popular for a lot of years. Unfortunately, none of us liked doing bingo. None of us liked hosting bingo. George got to do it. He didn't like it either, but we all did it. But anyway, that was a popular game at the time. Carolyn Wood came on board in a few months after that, and she went to work as our studio coordinator, worked with Mr. Foley to help plan some of the future programs for the community. She also introduced us to computers. Remember Apple II Plus? Yep. Yeah, that's the first computer we had was an Apple II Plus. Come a long way since then. We had new programs being added with some hosts, some of the residents, and also some of the staff of PCM started coming on as well. We had a weekly show called Administrative Chat, and that featured answers to questions that some of the residents had. This was with Mr. Price, who was the administrator. And then that was so popular, we added chat part 2 with his assistant, Mr. Hal Jones, and he was often filled in with assistance by Mr. Douglas Crowder, former FBI agent who worked in the community at the time. We also had a lot of interesting guests come by, primarily brought in by residents. We had car dealer Cal Worthington come along without his dog Spot, and we had fitness expert Jack LaLanne visit us one day. We used to go on the air at 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the afternoon or the evening. We also had our weather scan. Some of you may remember that from the old days. It was a black and white camera that moved, and it had all these weather dials, which was a great idea, except over the years the weather dials started to stop working, and the company went out of business. So we had to keep covering them up with pictures. So we ended up with about 3 dials by the time I think it was finally taken off the air. We added some residents to involvement in our programming as well. We had a gentleman named Andy Lambden who did sport and shorts, and among his guests was a community resident, Mr. Peter DiPaolo. If you follow motor racing, Mr. DiPaolo won the 1925 Indianapolis 500, so it was interesting, talking about how those days were. We also had lots of cultural events come on. We had Leona Peterson, Enid Watkins Degner, and Alice Lee talking about various entertainment things and cultural events. And we also added a weekly segment from the El Toro Marine Base, which was our neighbor just up the coast from us here. Our staff was involved in interviewing candidates as well, running for local offices. Some of the pictures you may have seen coming by. We had John Schmitz, who was our congressman for a while. We had Senator S.I. Hayakawa as well. Speaking of President Nixon, when he left office and retired to San Clemente, George and I were over at the El Toro base when he arrived, and that was indeed a historic moment. As I mentioned, George had come along in '69 as well, and he was taking flying lessons. We also had several members of Congress, and you've seen some of their pictures come by here. Robert Badham, Christopher Cox, and John Campbell, Mimi Waters, among others that joined us on the show. A major project for this community was the planning and construction of Saddleback Hospital, and the GRF board donated the land, and many of the residents have obviously been patients as well as contributors to the hospital. They also started a weekly program with Dr. Lydia Dean called You and Your Health. We had assistance from RCA in looking at some new equipment, and we did a one-day test of color to see if that was possible for the community. We were still in black and white. This paved the way for a new contract between Rossmore Electric and the community to help cover the cost of that new color equipment. So in February of '71, we made the move to color, and we spent a lot of time doing our daily productions, plus answering the phone and meeting the residents, visiting the studio. So one of our fine residents, a lady named Eleanor Marquis, said, you guys could use some help. Would you mind if some of us volunteered? We said, please, go ahead. So she started a very successful volunteer program to assist us in the studio. Many of our viewers were retired, and so they needed information about how to be successful in retirement. We started a weekly show, or a monthly show, with local members of the Social Security staff as well. Now, we were still in what was the old administration building, which used to be there. And we continued to work with the Cal State Fullerton students. We had a number of good interns over the years. Mr. Jimenez left in '71, and we brought in a former Cal State intern, Robert Cromwell, whose picture you'll see here periodically. Rob was in public relations, and he worked with our volunteers and also coordinated some of the studio open houses. Also, he came up with the concept of the trading post, which I think is still on the air. I think it's our longest running show on Channel 6. He also brought along some cooking segments as well. The trading post really got very popular, although some people didn't take it seriously. We had one lady offered to exchange her 85-year-old husband for 2 35-year-olds. As the community grew, so did the cable system, and they added new channels. We decided to move our broadcasting day from late afternoon and early evening to early morning. We felt we had too much competition with the big channels in the afternoon and evening. We started in the AM with our Channel 6 News, which was eventually preceded by an exercise program. And some of the interviews we had during those years included politicians. We had Dianne Feinstein join us, and the gentleman who eventually made it to Congress was Sonny Bono. We had him on as well. That was an interesting interview. Rossmore Electric continued the operation in the '70s. and several of the contracts were negotiated. Now we continued to add more equipment. We ended up with 3 color cameras, color video equipment, and that was kind of our story during the 70s. The beginning of Saddleback College was a big deal, and that provided some adult education classes for the folks here in the community. We also interviewed the college trustees and, of course, members from the college administration as well. They expanded down to Irvine Valley College, now offering 2 colleges, and they even offered some classes right here in Laguna Hills. So the 70s were years of growth with lots of new equipment and lots of things came along. We had some interesting guests. We had Ronald McDonald join us one morning. And he came by and visited some of the residents in the community. We also had the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile pulling outside the studio. And the college-age kids that were driving that shared some of their experiences about driving around the country. Little Oscar, not present. We started having the GRF and the mutual presidents as regular guests, and some of them joining us today, even former board members. And this was a lot of big addition to our news program. The boards also, of course, hold their annual elections, and we had a chance to introduce some of the candidates running for your boards. The board members also wanted to get Channel 6 more involved and wanted the residents to be more involved, so we started televising the monthly board meetings, first of all live from the administration building, and we added additional cables, moved our cameras in. Third Mutual, United, and GRF added coverage of their monthly board meetings. They also started allowing time for audience participation, and sometimes that made some very, very lively meetings with some interesting discussions. After Rob Cromwell moved, we needed to have some more production people, so Paul Ortiz came along, and he'd been working here in the community for a number of years, was completing his communications classes at Cal State Fullerton, and he became a welcome addition to our staff in May of 1988, and of course today, Paul is your General Manager of Broadband Services. So he must be doing something right. The community leadership decided also that something they should really look into was having more clout in Sacramento and in Washington. So they started to work on cityhood. We have a couple of city manager, former city council members here today, including the mayor who was just here a few minutes ago. The cityhood got started, and they were asking us to televise their meetings, so we started doing that in the boardroom. And we also televised live the night of the election. I remember Bob Ring, who was a leader at the time, hollering down the hall when the votes were finally tabulated and they went over the top and cityhood was a reality. So the city hall got their facility opened up and they wanted their meetings covered, first in the old boardroom here, and then eventually they added their own cameras over there in City Hall. Mark Weiss joined our staff. He's right back there. And Mark joined us in 2001. His background in television and film production was a welcome addition to our staff, and many of the production and editing functions in the studio were developed by Mark. He continues working as your senior production coordinator. Mark had an interesting job one night. He worked all night long and early morning in 2002 when the original Leisure World Globe was moved to its location on Moulton Parkway. In May of 2007, of course, the steel and fiberglass globe was dismounted and the frame rendered to scrap. I understand there are some residents who claim that they have saved some of the fiberglass continents. So some garages around here you may see South America or something. We had a few outdoor live programs as well. We used the cement slab right behind our studio, and we had classic cars, some grilling, some surf music, and a beach theme to welcome in the summer season. Now the boards began to discuss the need to expand and replace the old administration building. This had been built as part of the original Rossmore project during the early sales days of this community. There's quite a few problems with that building, including rain leaks and an outdated HVAC system. I was telling Paul at lunch, reminder of one of the times we were directing a live show, and the gentleman from our corporate headquarters, Mr. Foley, was holding a piece of cardboard over my head so the rainwater wouldn't run into the control room. And finally, he got tired of holding up the piece of cardboard, so he said, "Take us off the air." So we went off the air at that particular moment. After much study, the board members decided to opt to sell that administration building and purchase the unoccupied office building on El Toro Road. The old building was removed and replaced by the San Sebastian facility in 2008. We remained on the air with limited production as the equipment was systematically removed and relocated on the third floor of the community center. Paul worked with the technical staff from Roscoe Electric to design the new control room, and we moved into our new offices in the studio facility in the summer of 2002. Board members wanted to continue the live coverage of board meetings. The needed audio and video cables were put into the new building to allow coverage there. Several major El Nino rain events caused some problems here in the community, and management and the boards worked very hard to plan for future problems like that, how to respond in the future. On 3 different Saturdays, we came down and turned Channel 6 on in case the board wanted to come and talk to the community about some of the problems with the rain coming our way. Technical backup for our studio operation came from employees of the cable system of Rossmore Electric. John Nadal, Mark Dominion, and others were involved and helped us to upgrade our studio equipment. Well, following several years of multi-year contracts with the operation of the studio as well as your cable system, the decision was made to make a change, and the Golden Rain Board ended the relationship with Rossmore Electric. Our staff decided to accept jobs with professional community management, with George Phelps deciding to retire and pursue his aerial photography business. Those of us that stayed became PCM employees. Added to our staff at that time was Ken Goldenberg, who specialized in computer graphics. He also did the weather on our news and hosted some creative cooking segments as well. Isabel DeCunha joined our staff, contributed to smooth production, and her main job was to keep me awake during the news program because I tended to nod off during commercial breaks. So she would say, "Rob, your break is over." So get me back on schedule for the show. We incorporated a weekly report from the community newspaper at that time. That was the Leisure World News. That was now changed to the Globe, I believe, a few years later. The Florence Sylvester Senior Center was featured weekly with some health and nutrition tips for the folks. Paul did some numerous entertainment segments, including an interview with Maria Osmond. I thought that was kind of a fun shoot to do. She was very, very nice, by the way. During the summers, we had segments with guests from the Orange County Fair and from the Laguna Beach pageant of the Masters. The voice of the pageant, Thurl Ravenscroft, also the voice of Tony the Tiger, shared his stories about his career. Starting in the late 60s through the ending of Rossmore Electric contract, we had not done a lot of advertising, so that was decided by PCM that might be a good opportunity, and the potential to start doing some full-time advertising was an important part of that new contract. John Nadal is with us today, and he brought his marketing experience to the studio and also developed numerous advertising programs to generate income. We also had local car dealers, some healthcare facilities, casinos, and political candidates all took advantage of presenting their messages on Channel 6. Michelle Mitzel is with us today. Michelle's back there. And she moved on to the position of handling traffic. Now, this is not to be confused with moving vehicles. It's not part of the security department. In radio and TV stations, traffic department handles the scheduling of the commercial messages. Production of commercials was something new for our staff, but they did a great job, and several of those advertisers also became part of our news program. We featured a weekly movie presentation. Several of the films that we showed actually were aired in the village prior to them being shown on any of the pay TV channels, so we thought kind of scoop on some of that. And your Historical Society was very active in the community, trying to preserve the community's history. Huell Hauser from KCET came down for the groundbreaking of this building, and then 1 year to the day later, he came for the official ribbon cutting to open it. Taped segments of both of those were shown on Channel 6. During the years, we had numerous interesting guests appear on the station. I mentioned some earlier. I had a chance to talk with Dean Torrance from the 60s duo Jan and Dean. Actress Cloris Leachman and resident Barbara Rush were also on the program. Personal favorite of mine was racing car driver Dan Gurney from Santa Ana, and I was also able to do a cooking segment with Alan Hale Jr., the skipper from Gilligan's Island. And I had a brief interview with William Shatner. You may have seen that picture come up as well. Captain Kirk, and he was a participant in the Long Beach Grand Prix at the press day. We also had folk singer Glenn Yarborough join us. He was here to do a concert as a favor to his mother-in-law who lived here in Leisure World. So that was kind of nice to get a chance to meet him. One of my wife's favorite all-time singers, Glenn Yarborough. To keep our viewers aware of changes in the driving laws, we put together a segment with the California Highway Patrol. And we have one of our officers back in the back today who was one of our guests on that segment. Capistrano office also assisted in producing a series of safe driving segments dealing with issues of concern, and that was with our host, resident safety officer, Mr. Durong, who took us through those. Stephanie Taveras was with us today, and she joined our staff She was our receptionist as well as helping us put together the news program. Kenneth Pucci was added to our staff. His background included being a crew member on the Tom Hanks film Castaway. He added a new level of innovation during our live programming and produced creative spot announcements for our advertising clients. I understand he runs the city channel in Laverne now for them. One of the pluses of working here is a chance to observe how others transition into retirement. With so many great examples, I had a lot of information to think about for my next phase of life. My wife had retired from the Irvine School District, and our sons were getting settled, so I decided to leave at the end of 2012. My last weeks were very enjoyable, with meetings with the City Council, the Saddleback College Board, and many of my friendly coworkers here in the building. I felt that the studio operation was in good hands and prepared for the coming changes in broadcasting. In a few months after leaving, your group held a luncheon at Clubhouse 7 where George Phelps, Carolyn Wood, and Myron Evan joined us for some talk about the history of our coverage of your community. I've enjoyed seeing the studio operation continue to grow and add new technologies to the production. In the early 80s, I gave a tour of Channel 6 to a friend who worked at a local UHF station. His comment on our operation, quote, "Channel 6 is the MASH of television stations." Since that time, the local channel operation has made great strides, and I'm proud to say that I was here for a portion of the early development, and thanks to the Historical Society for recognizing and featuring the studio operation.
35 years.
Yeah, you gotta be here a while.
So close.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right, I'll be wearing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for showing up.
And welcome back. Let's talk Saturday movie. We have a great one for you. It's Clint Eastwood directed and produced. It is Mystic River. It stars Sean Penn. It stars Kevin Bacon. A lot of folks are in this. Lawrence Fishburne's in this one as well. It is going to be brought to us by Hoag Orthopedic Institute. It's going to be at 2 p.m. with the subtitles and 6 p.m. without the subtitles. It is a tragic murder of a 19-year-old girl reunites 3 childhood friends still living in Boston. The victim's gangster father, a detective, and the disturbed man they both suspect of killing her. It is a great movie. I remember seeing it many years ago. It's definitely a good watch. Okay, let's take a check of our weather, and we got some great temperatures for this weekend, and then we're going to have a warm-up in the middle of next week, so enjoy the cooler temperatures while you can. Starting Monday, we are going to be hitting the 80s, and then Tuesday, 85 degrees, so definitely summer is here as we head towards August. Going to be some warm temperatures out there, so like I said, enjoy the cooler temperature for this weekend. Monday on the program, we're going to be talking to the folks from the Theater Guild, find out what big show they have coming up, so stay tuned for that one as well. That's going to do it for this edition of This Day. I'm Michael Taylor. For all of us here at Village Television, we hope you make this day a great one.